Oh, Lord.
You know, sometimes I wonder whether bringing you into the world wasn't a waste of professional effort. How many times have I told you, it's all in the mind.
Sorry, Doctor. I get worse every day.
Decide where you want the ball to go. Imagine it there, and then hit it. Like that. All right for time?
I promised Dad I'd play for evensong. I should be all right for another couple of holes anyway.
That's if we ever get this one finished.
Oh.
Of course, if you have no imagination, I suppose it doesn't work.
I thought I heard a shout. Hope it didn't hit anyone. Oh, the ball can't possibly have travelled that far, can it?
Not if the precedent is anything to go by.
Ah, here it is. Good.
Good?
I mean, it didn't hit anyone.
And is unlikely to be hit by anyone. Try getting it out of there. Not that one, you fool. This one. Now, if you can't manage with that, you better put the wretched thing out of its misery. Pick it up and throw it.
Decide where you want the ball to go. Oh, every time I'm close to the edge, I do that. Every single time.
Are you going to try and get it back?
If I can see it anywhere. Doctor, quickly! Look.
Can we get down to him?
There's a path further along. He's still breathing, I think.
There's nothing to be done. His back is broken. I'll go for help.
Isn't there anything we can do?
No, it's too late now. His pulse rate is weakening fast. He'll last about another 20 minutes, if that.
I'll stay.
There'll be no pain. No pain at all. I'll be as quick as I can.
Why didn't they ask Evans?
I say! Anything the matter?
Man's dead! Help is on its way!
I'll come down!
There's a path to your right!
say. What a beastly thing to happen.
Grim.
Nothing I can do.
Well, actually, there is, but not for him, for me. You see, the thing is, I've got an appointment at 6, and...
You don't like to leave?
Well, I know the poor chap's dead and all that, and there's nothing one can do, but all the same.
Don't you worry, old man. You cut along to wherever it is. I'll stay till they get here. My name's Roger Bassington French, by the way. I've come down to see about a house.
Oh, Bobby Jones.
Like the golfer.
Not a bit like a golfer.
It's 5 minutes past, Vicar.
Well, I'll give him 5 more minutes, Roberts. Wretched boy. Punctuality may be the politeness of princes, but not apparently in my parish. It being the feast of St. James the Greater, we shall now sing, unaccompanied, I'm afraid, hymn number 557, For All Thy Saints, a noble song. If you cannot do a thing properly, my dear Bobby, it's far better not to do it at all. Ah, thank you, Mrs. Roberts. That smells quite delicious. I know that most of your friends have no idea of time, but there is one who must never be kept waiting. For what we are about to receive, may the Lord make us truly thankful.
Amen. I'm sorry, Dad, but it really wasn't my fault. I was keeping guard over a corpse.
You were what?
Keeping guard over a poor blighter who stepped off the cliff. He must have gone straight on and over.
Was he killed outright?
No, unconscious. He died just after Dr. Thomas had gone for help. Well, I felt I couldn't just push off and leave him. So when another fellow came along, I just passed the job of chief mourner on to him and legged it here as fast as I could.
Well, nothing, not even sudden death, shake your deplorable callousness. Everything, however solemn, appears to be nothing but a joke to your generation.
Oh, it isn't like that, really, Dad.
I hesitate to say this, Bobby, but it's 8 months now since you were unfortunately invalided out of the Navy. Seems to me you're losing your grip of things.
There isn't much to grip around here, Dad.
Exactly. I think it's time you set about finding yourself a job.
Well, actually, I may be onto something. I'm going up to London tomorrow to have a look.
Oh, it's the first I've heard of it.
Yes, well, I thought I'd better find out more about it first.
Well, good prospects.
I'm thinking of going in with Badger Beeden.
My dear Bobby, you can't be serious.
His great-aunt died. And left him £300. He's taken a lease on a garage. Second-hand cars, that sort of thing.
Young Beeden is completely irresponsible. He's never done a hand's turn in his life.
Well, that's not fair, Dad. It's just that he's not had much luck.
Luck? Divine intervention would hardly compensate for his complete lack of application. When he started that chicken farm, what happened?
Foul pest.
And when his uncle set him up in a stockbroker's job in the city, what happened?
Fired.
And when his father and his mother sent him off to Australia, what did he do then?
Came back.
Exactly.
Well, Australia?
Well, how long are you proposing to be away?
Back the day after tomorrow, Dad. That's all.
Well, it grieves me to say this, Bobby, but I fear you will not go with my blessing.
I didn't think that I would. Badger. Badger. I know practically nothing about cars.
Oh, it doesn't matter, old chap. I tell you, we're bound to succeed. Put a lick of paint on, and that's all the ordinary fool notices. Pretty, don't you think? Hmm? It sticks a bit, that's all. Yeah. You see why I need you.
Oh, I say, I'm most frightfully sorry. Frankie?
Bobby!
I haven't seen you for ages.
Well, I haven't seen you. Are you planning to spend the entire journey on the floor, or are you going to sit down and talk?
The ticket's the wrong colour.
Leave it to me.
Everything all right, your ladyship?
Yes, perfectly, Inspector. But my friend, Mr. Jones, has just popped in to see me for a bit. Won't matter, really.
The gentleman won't be staying for long, I expect. I shan't be round again till after Bristol.
What can be done with a smile?
Nonsense. Father's habit of tipping everybody 5 shillings whenever he travels that does it.
I must say it's nice to see you.
I heard you'd given up the Navy. Didn't axe you, did they? Not at your age.
Eyes.
You've always had trouble with your eyes.
I heard you'd given up Wales for good.
After the party I went to last night, I thought even the castle couldn't be worse, in spite of the drafts in the bathrooms.
Oh, what was the matter with it?
Oh, nothing really. Just like any other party, I suppose that was it. It's odd, isn't it? I've little to worry about. I've a choice of houses to live in, hideous family jewels, creditless shops. It's all families, isn't it?
What is you, do you think?
When we were children, playing together, happy. Oh, Bobby, I'm so tired of everything, aren't you?
No, not really. I don't get the chance.
By the way, what's all this about a man falling over the cliffs?
Oh, yes, poor devil. Dr. Thomas and I found him. How did you hear about it?
In the paper. Doesn't say anything about you and Dr. Thomas, though.
Well, no. No, it wouldn't, would it? What does it say?
Fatal accident on Welsh coastal path. The victim of the recent tragedy at Marchbolt was identified late last night by means of a photograph he was carrying. The photograph proved to be that of Mrs. Leo Cayman. Mrs. Cayman was communicated with and journeyed to Marchbolt, where she identified the deceased as her brother, Alex Pritchard. Mr. Pritchard had recently returned from Siam. He'd been out of England for 10 years and was starting on a walking tour. Inquest will be held at Marchbolt on Monday.
Oh, I believe I shall have to give evidence.
Bobby, how thrilling! I should come and listen to you. I suppose nobody pushed him over, did they?
Pushed him over? Good Lord, no. Why?
Well, make it much more exciting, wouldn't it?
Life was not then extinct.
No. Deceased was still breathing. There was, however, no hope of recovery. The man's back was broken.
There were no signs of any violence, such as might have been administered by a third party?
I can only say that all the injuries present are such as would have been occasioned by a man falling on the rocks 50 or 60 feet below, sir.
There remains, then, the question of suicide?
That is perfectly possible. Whether deceased walked over the edge or threw himself over is something about which I cannot give an opinion.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas.
Thank you.
That will be all.
Thank you, sir.
Lieutenant Robert Jones. Cry, you say? What sort of cry?
Well, I mean, a cry.
A cry for help?
Oh, no. No, more a sort of shout, you know. In fact, I wasn't quite sure that I'd heard it.
A startled kind of cry?
Oh, that's more like it. Sort of sound a fellow might let out if a ball hit him unexpectedly.
Or if he took a step into nothingness when he thought he was on a path.
That's it, exactly.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mrs. Leo Cayman.
I swear by Almighty God, the evidence I shall give shall be the truth. The whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
You are Mrs. Amelia Cayman of 17 St. Leonard's Gardens, Paddington. You are related to the deceased?
He was my brother.
Mr. Alex Pritchard. Mrs. Cayman, when did you last see your brother?
The day before he fell. He said he was going on a walking tour of Wales. He had only just recently returned to this country from the East. He was so looking forward to it.
He was in a happy and normal state of mind?
Yes.
You had no money troubles, or troubles of any kind in his life recently?
Well, there was no sign of it.
What was his profession, Mrs. Cayman?
Prospecting. Well, that's what he called it. He was very seldom in England.
You know of no reason at all which might have caused him to take his own life? Thank you, Mrs. Cayman. I don't think we need distress you any further. Members of the jury, it is your task to decide how this man came by his death.
Sorry I was late. I caught you all bit, though. I thought you were charming good.
You make it sound like a school concert.
Well, there's little enough to do down here. An inquest was a perfect godsend. Mind you, I thought death by misadventure was a bit of a dodo. I'd hoped for a suspicion of foul play, but it all seemed regrettably straightforward.
I would never have believed it.
What?
The girl in the photograph I found could end up looking like that.
Well, it looks exactly like her. Photograph was touched up, that's all.
So touched up, you wouldn't have known them for the same person. Anyway, where did you see it?
In the Marchbold Times.
It probably reproduced badly.
Seems to me you're absolutely batty over a painted-up, rattled bitch. Yes, I said bitch like the Cayman woman.
Frankie.
Well, you shouldn't be so ridiculous. What is ridiculous is to quarrel about the damned woman. How about a game of golf tomorrow? You can't be as bad as you used to be.
Can't I? No, I'm not sure I'm all that keen on golf at the moment. That's how all this started.
Well, who knows? You may be lucky. Perhaps there's a lunatic at large, a pusher of people off cliffs. Will he strike again? Does Bobby Jones, the vicar's son, hold the key to the mystery that's terrifying the inhabitants of this sleepy little Welsh town?
Go home.
10:30?
At the golf club.
I still think it looks exactly like it.
Ah, there is Bobby. Bobby?
I do hope you'll forgive the intrusion, Mr. Jones. My husband is arranging for my poor brother's body, and, well, I was just wondering...
Mrs. Cayman was wondering if you had anything else you could tell her.
Yes, you see, I know you tell the coroner everything you could, but, well, I did just wonder if there was some small personal thing. You do understand, don't you?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
You see, I still can't believe it. My poor Alex. Poor Alex.
Oh, I know. Absolutely grim.
I think it's a little chilly in here. Perhaps I'd better put a match to the fire.
You see, if he had left any last word or message, I should like to know it. It would mean so very much to me.
As a matter of fact, he didn't.
Nothing at all?
No. Well, as a matter of fact, nothing at all.
Merciful to pass away, unconscious, without pain.
Yes, well, that is something to be thankful for. I did say that I would meet my husband back at the hotel.
You must put your trust in the great healer, time. You're sure you wouldn't like us to walk you over to the hotel?
Oh, well, that's very kind of you, but I should like a few moments to be alone, you know. Goodbye, Mr. Jones. Goodbye, Mr. Jones.
Oh, goodbye.
Really, Bobby, you had a tolerable education. In moments of stress, when an unfortunate human being demands words of comfort, is that the best you can do? Absolutely grim.
I'm sorry, Dad, but I didn't know what to say. Well, it's all very well for you. You're doing it all the time.
I don't know what you mean.
Kettle's on, Vicar. Tea won't be a minute.
How is Styleham, Mrs. Roberts?
Oh, market won't be worth going to soon. Fewer stalls every week.
Mrs. Roberts, have you seen last week's copy of the Marchbolt Times by any chance?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Bobby. I thought you and the Vicar were finished with it. I used it on the fire.
I don't suppose it matters.
You see, you can do it when you try.
Well, at least I didn't go into the sea this time. Good Lord.
What?
I've just remembered something.
Well?
That woman, Mrs. Cayman, when she came round yesterday and asked if the fellow had said anything before he died, I told her he hadn't.
He hadn't?
No. No, I've just remembered now, he did. But it wasn't the sort of thing they meant. That's why I didn't think of it, I suppose.
What did he say?
He said, why didn't they ask Evans?
What a funny thing to say. Nothing else?
No, he just opened his eyes and said that, quite suddenly, and then he died.
Well, I wouldn't worry about it. It wasn't important.
No. Still, I wish I just mentioned it. Dear Mrs. Cayman, I have just remembered that your brother did actually say something before he died. I think the exact words were, why didn't they ask Evans? I apologize for not mentioning this yesterday, but I attached no importance to the words at the time, and so, I suppose, they slipped my memory. Yours truly, Robert Jones.
Just going to the shop, Mr. Bobby.
Oh, Mrs. Roberts. Mrs. Roberts, would you be kind enough to put this in the pillar box for me?
Oh, it's no trouble. Posting a few for the Vicar anyway.
Ah. Well, I'm damned.
Really, Bobby?
Oh, sorry, Dad. Forgot you were there. But somebody's offered me £1,000 a year.
What did you say, 1,000? £1,000?
Hold in one, Dad.
But that's quite impossible.
Well, a bit unlikely, I agree, but not impossible.
Well, who are these people?
Some shipping firm in Buenos Aires. I've been highly recommended. They don't say by whom.
Remarkable. Remarkable.
They must be complete lunatics, I agree.
Nothing of the kind. The South American firm obviously realizes the value of a young man of integrity.
All the same, Dad. Why me?
Well, ex-officer of the British Navy, Vicar's son. Oh. They want you to telegraph your acceptance immediately and be ready to sail for Buenos Aires within the week. Well, it's rather short notice, I grant you.
Dad, I can't.
What on earth do you mean?
Well, I'm fixed up, aren't I? With Badger.
Even Badger Beeden can't be such a complete ass to imagine you're going to turn down an offer of £1,000 a year.
Well, it's no good, Dad. I can't let him down. He's counting on me.
Well, why is he counting on you? Will you tell me that?
Well,
Simply because he knows that you're as big a fool as he is.
How beautiful you are. They wouldn't believe me. They wouldn't believe me.
Really, Robert?
Oh, sorry, Dad.
How sharper than a serpent's tooth it is to have a thankless child. Haven't you anything to do?
Tell you the truth, Dad, I'm a bit bored. I thought I might go for a walk.
Do you a part of good young man. Risk 12 miles or so across country. Wish I could come with you.
Rather a graveyard suggestion about them, I'm afraid, but the choice was singularly limited.
I thought you were in London.
My dear, as soon as I heard about you, I tore back. It's most exciting to have a romantically poisoned friend.
Oh, I don't know whether morphia is so very romantic. I hope you realise you're now gazing upon a medical phenomenon.
To listen to you, one would think nobody had ever been poisoned before.
Jolly few have been poisoned with 8 grains of morphia and got over it. Dash it all, Frankie, you don't seem very impressed.
Well, I'd spare a thought for the people who poisoned you.
Whatever for?
Must be pretty sickening for them. All that morphia, and there you are, alive and kicking.
Oh, I never thought of it like that. Do you know, Dr. Thomas thought I'd done it deliberately?
Deliberately?
Yes. He says anybody who plays golf the way I do should be forgiven for taking the easy way out. Someone must have put the stuff in my beer while I slept. Apparently, even the dregs were lethal.
Which just goes to prove that what I said on the train was true.
What did you say?
That man Pritchard, or whatever his name was, didn't fall over the cliff at all. He was pushed.
Oh, Frankie.
Well, it's obvious, darling. I mean, who'd want to put you out of the way? Haven't any enemies that you know of? Well, there you are, then.
Where?
Well, it must have been something to do with Pritchard. You had seen something that you weren't supposed to see, or so they, whoever they are, think. Bobby, well, has anything else out of the ordinary happened?
Well, there was that letter offering me a job for £1,000 a year in Buenos Aires. People I'd never met.
Well, there you are, then. First, they try to get rid of you by offering you a job abroad, and then when that doesn't work, they have to put you out of the way altogether.
But what on earth is it I'm supposed to have seen?
Oh, well, that's a difficulty, I agree.
And anyway, if I had seen anything, I would have said so at the inquest, wouldn't I?
Well, I'll have to go away and think about it. And do I kiss you or don't I?
It's not catching.
Then I'll do my duty to the sick thoroughly. Magazines and papers. I'm sorry they're a bit out of date. And I'll see you tomorrow.
Lady Frances? Lady Frances? I'm ever so sorry, Lady Frances, but could you come back? I think Mr. Jones has had a relapse.
Bobby, what on earth's going on? Look, I want my tea.
This copy of the Marchville Times you left me, the one I never saw. Look.
Portrait found on the dead man by which he was identified. Mrs. Amelia Cayman, the dead man's sister, sir.
Oh, that isn't the photograph I put back in the dead man's pocket.
It isn't?
No.
But that means that...
Either there must be 2 photographs.
Which isn't likely.
Or
someone took the photograph that you saw and put another in its place. That man that came along after Pritchard had died.
Basington French, if that's his name.
Oh, come on, Bobby. Basington French is hardly a name one's likely to make up. What was he like?
I didn't notice him particularly. He said he was a stranger down here, and something about looking for a house.
Bobby, have you thought? If Pritchard was pushed, Basington French is probably the man who did it.
Oh, he seems such a nice fellow.
Yes, but if it was murder, then it all fits. You turn up, you're not supposed to. You find the photograph, you're not supposed to. They had to do something.
Won't work.
Why not?
If it was the photograph that was so important, whatever was going to be done about me would have been done at once. Otherwise, the chances are that I'd have seen this copy of the Marchbold Times and immediately said, that isn't the photograph I saw. Why wait until after the inquest to have a go at me when everything was nicely settled? Oh, and there's another thing. Basington French didn't appear until after I'd put the photograph back in the dead man's pocket.
Damn. So it's got to be something they didn't know till after the inquest. Don't know why I keep saying they.
I do. Because the Caymans must have been in it as well.
Of course. I bet she isn't even his sister.
Well, it puzzled me all along. I mean, the dead man, whoever he was a gentleman. Mrs. Cayman was in a different class altogether.
But if he isn't Mrs. Cayman's brother, then who is he? And why was it so important he shouldn't be recognised?
And why was the portrait of Mrs. Cayman put into his pocket and the portrait of the fair unknown removed?
Was she fair?
She was very pretty.
Would you recognise her again?
Oh, I'd know her anywhere.
Bobby, what was it that Pritchard said just before he died?
Why didn't they ask Evans?
But you didn't tell the Caymans that, did you?
As a matter of fact, I did.
You did?
Yes. Yes, I wrote to them that evening, saying it was probably quite unimportant, and they wrote back, politely agreeing, and thanking me for taking the trouble. I felt rather snubbed.
And 2 days later, you get a letter from a strange firm bribing you to go to South America.
Yes.
Well, what more do you want? Look at it from the Cayman's point of view. Everything's gone off well. Body successfully identified. Verdict of accidental death. Everything in the garden lovely. Then you come along and mess it all up.
Why didn't they ask Evans? I don't see how that could put the wind up anybody.
That's because you don't know.
So what do we do now?
Check up on Basington French. I believe a friend of mine was down here the other day, a Mr. Basington French. He was looking for a house.
Making inquiries about various properties with a view to purchase. He was obliged to return to town the next day, so he couldn't view many of the houses we have to offer. Since he left, 1 or 2 highly suitable properties have come onto the market, and I've sent him on particulars to Merroway Court, Staveley, Hants. But I've had no reply.
He's guilty. He's definitely guilty. I mean, you don't go into a house agent's at 6:30 in the evening, then up to London the following day. Why make the journey at all? Why not write?
I must say you've done jolly well so far.
That's not all. After that, I tackled Inspector Williams.
Oh, what did he say?
He said the deceased had very little on him. 1 handkerchief, not marked, some loose change, a packet of cigarettes, a couple of treasury notes, no letters, and just 1 photograph.
Not the one I saw. Didn't he say anything else?
Yes, could he borrow the castle grounds for the police fete? Oh, and there was a car scene in the vicinity the day that you were poisoned. A dark green Talbot saloon.
Did they get the registration number?
Well, no, not quite. It was, GG something or other.
Oh. There must be hundreds of dark green Talbots in England.
Almost as many as there are Evans in the Marchbold directory. 482.
I'm thinking of taking for my text this Sunday, and he that was dead came forth. Well, Lazarus, you know, seems most apposite. Oh, I beg your pardon, Lady Frances, I didn't see you.
I've always thought everyone must have been perfectly furious with him. Lazarus, I mean. Oh, there he was, safely tucked away, all that wailing and gnashing of teeth going on, then suddenly he's up and about, making everyone look silly.
It was a miracle, Lady Frances. Oh, good day, Doctor. How are you? Let me take your clubs.
You're very kind, very kind.
This way. Doctor's here.
Just come to take a look at him. Time you were back on a golf course, young man. I'm reduced to playing with people who can play.
There's St. Luke, of course. Thou shalt be recompensed at the resurrection of the just.
I hardly think that applies to Bobby, do you?
Well, no, perhaps not. Well, what about that child that Elisha raised from the dead?
Oh, much more fun than Lazarus. I mean, he opened his eyes and sneezed 7 times.
Yes, but as far as I can remember, our dear Bobby didn't sneeze at all.
If he gives you any trouble, Mrs. Roberts, just let me know.
Oh, you won't do that, Doctor.
Thanks, Dr. Thomas.
Ah, you off, Doctor?
Oh, I must get in a few holes before surgery.
The doctor says I shall be fit enough to go up to London next week.
Good. May I?
Oh, please. I thought you didn't approve of my going in with old Badger.
Easier to check up on the Hampshire Basington Frenches from London than from this remote outpost of the British Empire. Bobby, this is George Arbuthnot. He's a doctor, and we shall need him for a little scheme that I've got on.
Shall we?
Shall also need a car. One of yours will do.
You mean you want to buy one of our cars?
Yes.
Well, that's really very nice of you, Frankie, but I do actually draw the line at taking advantage of my friends.
You've got it all wrong, as usual. No, we really do need a car.
What about the Bentley?
Bentley's no good for what I want it for.
What's that?
Smashing it up.
I don't think I feel very well this morning. She means she's going to have an accident.
How does she know?
Badger Beaton! The last time I saw you, you were head down in the mud and we had to pull you out by the legs. My dear, you haven't changed a bit.
Well, this time I managed it under my own steam.
Frankie wants to buy one of our cars.
Oh, 2 cars. George has got to have one too, and he's crashed his at the moment.
We can hire him one.
Well, come and have a look at what we've got in stock.
They're very smart.
Oh, yes. They look all right. That's the idea.
Now, this is remarkably good value in second-hand...
Trojans?
Yeah.
Oh, no, not that one. The Austin's still got a bit of mileage in it. And the Standard should last another week or so.
All right. I'll take the Standard. Cash.
Well, first time I ever knew anyone with a title who could pay cash. I'll just get to watch it.
Now, someone please tell me what's going on.
Roger Basington French. I'm on the track. Merroway Court belongs to his brother, and he lives there with him and his American wife.
Whose wife?
The brothers, of course.
The point is, how am I going to worm my way into the household?
Why you? Why not me? Or both of us?
Because, my dear child, Basington French knows you, and he doesn't know me from Adam. And I'm in a frightfully strong position because I've got a title. Very useful things, titles. George and I came down to the village, had a look round. Strangers arriving there would simply stay on miles, so we revolved the plan.
Who has?
Me and George. Now, this is what's going to happen. Actually going to sell this to someone.
All it needs is a bit of work.
It needs a new engine, a new gearbox, 4 new tires and some brakes. Let's hope the law of gravity still holds good and it gets down the hill of its own volition.
Frankie, are you sure you know what you're doing?
It's all beautifully planned, I told you. George, off you go.
You're looking very pale, Frankie. Are you sure you're all right?
I made up pale. Wouldn't want me carried into the house blooming with health. Now, look, this is what you have to do. When George waves his handkerchief and I wave mine, start her off.
I'll stay on the running board until the pace gets too hot, and then I'll jump off.
Don't hurt yourself.
Oh, I shall be extremely careful not to. might complicate matters to have a real accident on the spot of a faked one.
Right. He's there. My turn. Oh, by the way, I better not write you direct. I'll write to George or my maid and get them to pass it on.
Frankie, look after yourself. I mean, don't do anything foolish.
Shall I roll around a bit and make myself dusty?
You might as well. Here, give me a hand. Concussion.
My doggo.
Oh, has there been an accident?
No. The young lady ran her car into the wall on purpose.
Is she dead?
Not yet. She must be taken somewhere at once. I'm a doctor. What is this place?
Merriway Court. Belongs to Mr. Bassington French.
You take her legs, I'll take her head.
I can carry this lady into. She needs to be attended to at once.
Shall I call the doctor?
I am a doctor. I happened to be passing in my car and saw the accident occur.
In here. Is she badly hurt?
I can't really tell till I've examined her.
I'll be in the hall if you want me. She looks terribly pale, poor child.
George, darling, this won't blight your career, will it? I mean, they won't strike you off the register or anything like that.
Probably. If it ever comes out that it...
I won't let it. Don't worry, George. I shan't let you down.
By the way, you'd better be a Christian Scientist.
Christian Scientist?
Well, we don't want any other doctor examining you, do we?
Oh, George, you think of everything.
Now, you will be careful.
I shall be most circumspect. You've got me into the enemy camp. Bless you. Now it's up to me.
I don't know whether it's the bang on the head or what it is, but I just don't want to move. I could lie here for days and days.
Well, I wish you would. It gets lonely here sometimes. Tommy! Play quietly. Poor Lady Frances will never recover with you making all that noise.
Lady Frances is malingering.
Actually, it's marvellous to see him playing and enjoying himself. He's had so many accidents recently. Last winter, he Nearly drowned, and then this spring he fell from his swing. Roger was... My brother-in-law was terribly upset because he was swinging him at the time. You know, pushing him up high the way children love.
Well, he certainly looks splendid now.
Henry doesn't like him playing with the local children, but you see, there's no one...
Playing with the local children never did me any harm. Quite the contrary.
Well, I know we're overprotective, but he is the only child.
The son and heir. It's understandable.
If anything were to happen to Tommy, I don't know...
Nothing will happen to Tommy.
Oh, Roger. Lady Frances, may I present the Black Sheep family? My brother-in-law, Roger. Roger, this is Lady Frances Derwent.
Who made such a marked impression on the park wall.
Roger, Ross said you were back. Have you brought my fork?
Tommy, how many times have I told you? You mustn't ask for things.
Nonsense. Promise is a promise, isn't it, old chap? Well, don't you worry. I've got your fort, and your cowboys, and your Indians. They're all in the hall. Off you go.
Oh, Roger, you spoiled him.
Henry, old man.
You're back, then.
Are you joining us for tea?
Tea? No, I don't want any tea. Watch must have stopped. What time is it?
10 to 4.
It can't be.
Promise you it is.
God's sake, tell those children to go home.
It was getting chilly anyway. I'll just close the window.
I must go back to my study. Do some accounts. Damned head gardener thinks I'm a fool.
I have offered to do the accounts for you.
Fat lot of use you'd be. Here today and gone tomorrow.
I'm sorry about it.
It must be very boring for him, my butting in like this.
Oh, Henry doesn't mind that. Henry doesn't mind anything these days.
I'll go and have a word with him.
Oh, Roger, I'm glad you're back.
Hey, steady on, old chap.
Is that the afternoon post?
Yes, sir.
How many times do I have to tell you to bring it straight to me?
Very good, sir.
Put that lot on my desk. I'll deal with them later.
Dad! Oh, Bobby! Is that you?
What are you doing here?
Had to come up to sort out that dreadful mess about the new hymn books. I ordered 3 dozen in red Morocco. And that fool Lewis sends me 2 dozen black.
How are you, Dad? Is everything all right?
Everything is not all right. That young woman who was taking your place, only temporarily, I trust, doesn't seem to appreciate the fact that congregations like ours like their hymns taken at a leisurely pace. Onward Christian Soldiers may have been written to help a group of small children to climb a hill, but there's no reason why she should attack it in quite such a vigorous manner.
Oh, good morning, Vicar.
Good morning, Badger. I trust the venture prospers.
We sold 3 cars in 5 days. Only one was brought back. Bloke said we must have given it an injection or something to get it going in the first place.
Remarkable. How are you keeping yourself, my boy?
No more trouble, Dad, if that's what you mean.
Oh, talking of which, a friend of yours was kindly inquiring for you.
A friend?
A tall, stooping man with very strong glasses. He stopped me just as I was going into the vestry. He seemed most anxious to know how you were. I gave him your address. I expect he'll be looking you up soon.
When was this, Dad?
Just a few days ago.
Would you like a cup of tea, Vicar?
If you'll excuse me, I think I must catch the 12:40 from Paddington. Take care of yourself, my boy.
And you, Dad.
You play a very good game.
No, I don't. I'm too lazy to practice, but it's kind of you to say so.
Lady Frances.
Oh, please, please call me Frankie. Everyone does.
You'll think I'm quite mad, I know. After all, I barely know you. But I do feel I have to speak to someone about Henry. And I know instinctively I can trust you.
Do you think you should?
Last night I caught you watching him. You see what I see, don't you? The abrupt changes of mood, his appearance, the eyes.
Yes. Yes, I have noticed.
It's morphia. I'm sure it's morphia. Or some sort of opium.
Morphia?
I first noticed it about 6 months ago. He was complaining of sleeplessness a good deal. How he first came to get the wretched stuff, I don't know, but I think it began then.
How does he get hold of it?
By post. I'm almost certain. Like yesterday, for instance. You saw how he was at tea time. Something arrived in the afternoon post. By dinner time, he was a different man.
Oh, Roger. Where does it come from?
I know one thing. No reputable doctor would let him have it.
Why are you telling me this?
I don't know what to do about Sylvia.
You think she doesn't know?
Either she doesn't know or she doesn't want to know. If only he'd consent to go for a cure. There's a place quite near here, actually, run by a Dr. Nicholson, Canadian, a very clever man. Henry likes him, too.
My, you two look as if you've been very energetic.
3 sets, and I lost every one.
I hope you haven't let him tire you out.
I thought we might make up a party. Ask the Nicholsons over. You'd like Maura Nicholson. She's a pretty little thing, isn't she, Sylvia?
Well, men seem to think so. Judge for yourself.
She has the most appealing eyes.
That's exactly what Alan Carstairs said. Someone who came down here a few weeks ago with some friends of ours. He seemed quite smitten by her, didn't he?
Looks a little sad.
It's hardly surprising. Living in a sanatorium surrounded by depressives and drug addicts can't be much of a life.
And either she worships her husband or she's scared to death of him. I can never make out which.
He's a very forceful man.
You don't like him?
No, I don't like him. I don't like him at all.
2 loads of morphia turning up within days of each other can't be a coincidence.
But that would mean that Bassington French would have had to be around in Wales on the very day Bobby was poisoned. When was it exactly?
Let me think. Tuesday I lunched with the Parkinsons, and Wednesday was the first night of that new review. That was the 16th. It must have been the 16th.
All you have to do is find out where Roger was on the 16th.
Oh, that's going to be very easy, isn't it?
Look, that run on the Black 7, bring the 2 across, and you'll clear the King of... I'm sorry. It's maddening, isn't it?
Quite maddening. When you smile, are you sure we haven't met before? Recently, quite recently. Wasn't it that party of Lady Shane's at Claridge's? The 16th it was.
Oh, he couldn't have been there. The 16th was Tommy's birthday. We had the most ghastly children's party. How I'd have got through it without Roger, I just don't know.
Besides, if I had met you before, I should never have forgotten.
That's the extraordinary thing about this place. When nothing happens most of the time, the most trivial things become memorable.
Well, if you think this is quiet, you should try Wales. Mind you, we do have the odd bit of excitement. We had a man fall off the cliff last month. We were all thrilled to the core. Rotten for him, of course. But it did give us something to talk about.
Was that a place called Marchbold?
Yes, that's right. We live 7 miles from there.
What an extraordinary coincidence. That must have been your man, Roger.
Your man?
I was actually in at the death. Stayed with the body till the police arrived.
But what were you doing there?
He had some absurd idea, buying a house down there.
It's not absurd at all. I shall settle down someday.
Well, when you do, settle down near us, not in Wales.
Didn't turn out to be suicide or anything, though.
Oh, no, it was all painfully above board. Didn't you see his picture in the paper?
I really don't remember.
I think I've got a cutting in my bag. Must have been awfully handsome, this Alex Pritchard. Before he was dead, I mean.
Oh, yes, I remember. He looks a bit like Alan Carstairs. I said so at the time.
There is a look of him about it, I agree. There is no real resemblance, you know.
Alan Carstairs, I've heard that name before somewhere.
Perhaps he was at Lady Shane's on the 16th.
Oh, he's quite a celebrity in his own way. He's a Canadian. A naturalist, a big game hunter, an explorer. Not that I know him all that well. He came down here with some friends of ours, the Rivingtons, for lunch one day. Very attractive man.
And he fell in love with Maura Nicholson?
With her photograph, yes. It was his first time in this country, I believe. Last year he'd been on tour through Africa with that millionaire man, John...
Savage.
You know, the one who thought he had cancer and killed himself.
Funny. Yeah, Alan Carstairs looking so like that man who fell over the cliff at Marchbold.
That's Dr. Nicholson.
I thought they were coming to play tennis this afternoon.
Well, they said they were.
My dear Sylvia, I'm the bearer of sad tidings. Moira has a slight migraine. I'm afraid we won't be able to make up a set this afternoon.
Oh, my guest will be very disappointed. May I introduce Lady Frances Derwent? Lady Frances, Dr. Jasper Nicholson.
How do you do?
Lady Frances has created quite a stir in the district.
I have.
Earl's daughter survives the unorthodox arrival at Merroway Court. You know, there was one thing that intrigued me.
Yes?
The doctor who was passing, the one who brought you in here, he must have had a most curious character. To turn his car around before going to the rescue?
Sorry, I don't understand.
Well, young Reeves, the messenger boy, he came from Staveley on his bicycle, and no car passed him. Yet he comes round the corner, finds the smash, with the doctor's car pointing in the same direction as he's going, towards London. Now, you see the point.
Good morning, Dr. Nicholson.
Good morning, Thomas.
Have you come to see my fort?
Oh, not today, I'm afraid, young man. Sounds most impressive. I look forward to hearing all about it when you come to tea tomorrow.
Tea?
Oh, Thomas has made an assignation with my wife. Didn't he tell you?
Tommy, have you been inviting yourself again?
No, of course he hasn't. And I'll show you the rabbits. Shall we say 3:30?
Oh, thank you, Dr. Nicholson.
I'll drive him over myself.
Fine.
Bye.
He's fond of children.
He says he's not, but the Tommy's special.
I suppose he came to Tommy's birthday party then.
Oh, no, he was away that weekend.
Dear Bobby, I think it's about time you came down. Get a chauffeur's livery, ours are always dark green, and put it down to Father's account at Harrods. I hope you have the moustache under control, and remember your name is Hawkins. It's all right, no one will ever recognize you. People just don't look at chauffeurs. Come down here and ask for me. You'll have to put up at the pub and get what local information you can there, particularly about a Dr. Nicholson who runs a place for dope fiends. Several suspicious circumstances about him, like he owns a dark green Talbot saloon, was away from home on the 16th when your bear was doctored, and is altogether far too interested in my accident. Au revoir, my fellow sleuth. Love from your successfully concussed Frankie. Oh, and P.S. I think I've identified the corpse.